Okay, so we've before this time we had serious problems in Nigeria as regards cash. A lot of people were dealing on cash, collecting huge sums of cash for transactions, and it posed a lot of problems in banking transactions in Nigeria. So about 2012, the Central Bank of Nigeria came up with a cashless policy. Now, the reason why they came up with the cashless policy is because they want to achieve a meaningful economic growth. And this can only be done through an efficient system of cashless policy. That was why in 2012, the Central Bank of Nigeria introduced the cashless policy in Nigeria. Now, the reason for introducing cashless policy was not to totally eliminate cash, but to regulate the circulation of cash in the economy in order to encourage more electronic transactions. So all of these things we are meant to bring about efficient payment systems with reduced cash usage, because these are some of the things that were found in developing countries, and they were all associated with vibrant economic growth and development. Now, of course, a lot of benefits were meant to be derived from the use of cashless policy, because a lot of cash will be reduced, which will help to improve the development of the society. So what exactly is the problem? So this study seeks to check the relationship between channels of cashless policy. We use the proxy as automated teller machines, points of transactions as a proxy for cashless policy. So we want to know the effect of this cashless policy on economic growth in Nigeria. Now, a lot of issues, like I said, has come up in the country because of the huge sums of cash that have been used in transactions in the economy. Now, the economy was under pressure in 2006, despite the cashless policy that was introduced by the Central Bank of Nigeria in 2012. The activities of real sectors were significantly constrained by low production of crude oil and price shocks. There were lots of shortage of foreign exchange and, of course, energy deficits and so many others. Now, the economy also contracted within this period also. In 2017, the economy witnessed a mild recovery from recession. In 2018, there was also a little bit of improvement, and 2019 up to 2028. Now, the aim of this study is to empirically establish the impact of cashless policy on economic growth in Nigeria from 2009 to 2022. And the objectives are to examine the effect of automated teller machine transactions, point of sale payments, web payments, and mobile payments, all on economic growth in Nigeria. Now, the automated teller machines, point of sale payments, web payments, and mobile payments are the proxies that we use for cashless policy. We reviewed a lot of literature, a lot of people that did some work that are related to cashless policy and economic growth. We reviewed a lot of them and the methods that they use and also their findings. For instance, one of the authors used the ordinary least square to examine the impact of cashless policy and found out that the cashless policy has been a very important and significant tool in influencing and enhancing economic performance. And several other scholars also use different methods of econometric techniques like the co-integration, the Granger causality test, the Spearman's correlation, to also look at the effects of cashless policy and economic growth. In summary, we all discovered that cashless policy, of course, improved the economic growth and development of several countries. Now, the study employed augmented Dikifula tests, which was used to test the unit root test, thereafter the Johansen co-integration test, and the error correction model. Now, the study used econometric model, which was aimed at capturing the influence of cashless policy on economic growth in Nigeria. And of course, the economic growth in Nigeria is proxied by the real gross domestic product. Now, we presented our model, looking at all the variables that we use for our cashless policy on real gross domestic product in Nigeria. Now, the first test that was conducted was the unit root test. This test is done in order to test the order of co-integration, the order of integration, to know these variables that are stationary and those that are not stationary. Thereafter, the co-integration test was done, and then the error correction mechanism was also carried out. Now look, the first result, which is the unit truth test, which was used, the augmented Dickey-Fuller test was used. You can see from the results here, the augmented Dickey-Fuller test reveals that 5% level of significance, all the variables were stationary at first difference. You can see that all the variables here are greater than the critical value. So they were all variable at first difference. And then given that these variables are integrated of other one, the test to determine the long-run relationship can be achieved with the aid of Johansen co-integration test, which was done after this test. Now you can see the results of the Johansen co-integration test, which is at table 2. Now this table shows that 3 co-integrating equations. You can see which means that there exists a long-run relationship among the variables in this model. Now, given the existence of 3 co-integrating equations, the requirement for fitting in an error correction model is satisfied. Now you can see the 3 co-integrating equations, the values, the ones in blue that are larger than the 5% critical values. Now this has given us room to go further to test for the error correction mechanism. Now this error correction mechanism intends to validate the presence of long-run relationship and incorporate the short-run dynamics into the long-run equilibrium relationship. Now you can see the results of the error correction mechanism. Now the table indicates that the dynamic model is a good fit because the difference in predictors accounts for 81% of the variable disparity in the model looking at the R-square. You can see the value of the R-square is 0.808960. Now this indicates the variation in economic goods explained by automated teller machine, point of sale, web payments, and mobile payments is 81%. And then this shows and indicates that the explanatory power of the model estimated is 81%. From the table, you can also see the George-anokwuru test, the one that is in blue, is 1.83, approximately 2.0. Now, this suggests that the model is free from autocorrelation. The ECM result continues. Now, the coefficient of error correction model appears with the right sign. The right sign for error correction model is negative. Now, this shows that this equilibrium economic growth in the previous year were corrected in the current year. Now, the ECM was rightly signed, and it means that it could correct any deviations from short-run to long-run equilibrium relationship between real gross domestic product and all the explanatory variables that we have adopted in this study. From this result, you can also see that the coefficients of automated teller machine and mobile payments appear with the right sign, which is positive. Now, this means there's a positive relationship between automated teller machine, mobile payments, and economic growth. Now, this conforms to our upper expectation, and this means that a percentage increase in automated teller machine transactions and mobile payments will increase economic growth by 0.13 and 0.43%, respectively. Now, still looking at the parsimonious error correction model, the absolute value of the T statistics you can see from this result is 5.4. Now, this shows that mobile payment is significant. However, the absolute value of T statistics for the slope coefficient of automated teller machine transactions is not statistics. You can see the figure here, 1.2. The p-value is 0.1. Now, the study accepts that there is a significant relationship between mobile payments and economic growth in Nigeria, but there is no significant relationship between automated teller machine transactions and economic growth in Nigeria. Now, the implication of this result is that the values of automated teller machine and mobile payments influenced economic growth during the period of this study. Now, this means that the value of mobile payments significantly contributed to increased economic growth during the period of study. The result further revealed that although automated teller machine influenced or encouraged economic growth, but the influence was not significant enough during the course of this study. Now, still on the parsimonious error correction model, the coefficients of point of sale and web payments appear with the wrong sign, which is negative. Now, the point of sale and web payments have negative relationship with economic growth because of the negative sign that it has appeared with. Now, these outcomes do not conform to our a priori expectation. This suggests that a percentage increase in points of sale and web payments will decrease economic growth by 0.0047 and 0.016% respectively. You can also see from this table that the absolute value of these statistics for the slope coefficient of web payments is significant at conventional level, which is normally 5%. Now, because of this result, the study accepts that there is a significant relationship between web payments and economic growth in Nigeria. But surprisingly also, if you look at this table, you will see that the absolute value of T statistics for the slope coefficient of point of sale transactions is not significant at conventional level. Now, the study accepts that there is no significant relationship between point of sale transactions and economic growth in Nigeria. Now, the implication of this result is that although the web payments has a negative relationship with economic growth in Nigeria, but if it's well managed, it will definitely stimulate economic growth in Nigeria. Now, we went further to look at post-estimation tests. Now, these tests were conducted to verify whether or not the estimated model is reliable for policy prediction. Now, the studies employed the WOW test for coefficient of restriction, the Bruce-Godfrey-Langren multiplier test for serial correlation, and the autoregressive conditional heteroscedasticity test to check whether or not the variance of the residuals in the ECM is homoscedastic. Now, we started with the WOW test. The result of the WOW test shows that the F statistics is approximately 36454, and the probability value is 0.00, which is less than 0.05 at the conventional 5% level. Now, this shows that all the independent variables used in the model are jointly important in explaining economic growth in Nigeria during the period of this study. Now, we also tested for serial correlation, and the results reveals that the error correction model is not suffering from serial autocorrelation problem. Now, this is because the chi-square value and the corresponding probability value of chi-square statistics surpass 0.05. Now, looking at the heteroscedasticity test result, you can also see that the test confirms that the error correction model is free from heteroscedasticity. And this suggests that the variance of the residual in economic growth model is homoscedastic over the period covered in this study. Now, in conclusion, you can see that the consumers expect increase in the use of e-payment systems to improve convenience, to make these transactions easier, more efficient, and better. And of course, the corporations also expect that the increase in the use of e-payments will also provide faster capital for them and eliminate leakages of revenue. And of course, the government expects that the increase in e-payment systems will increase tax collections and provide greater financial inclusion, which will ultimately improve economic growth in Nigeria. Now, using the data from these variables from 2009 to 2022, the results reveal that automated teller machine has a positive and insignificant relationship with economic growth in Nigeria, while the mobile payment has positive and significant relationship with economic growth in Nigeria. Now, the point of sale has negative and insignificant relationship, and while the web payment has negative and significant relationship with economic growth, all within the period of this study. Now, this means that the relationship between channels of cashless policy and economic growth in Nigeria varies. It could be negative or it could also be positive. Now, it means that there is no clear-cut prediction. There is no cut prediction between channels of cashless policy and economic growth in Nigeria. Now, the study has concluded that cashless policy has been a veritable tool in influencing economic growth in Nigeria, especially as it relates to automated teller machine transaction payments in Nigeria. Now, the study has recommended, based on the findings, that the Central Bank of Nigeria should encourage deposit money banks to offer quality e-payment channels in Nigeria, and the CBN should also enlighten the populace more on the essentials of cashless policy. Now, this is because it raising the level of public enlightenment will reduce possible resistance by banking public so that the economy will enjoy the full benefits of cashless policy. Thank you for listening.